Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about Julia Child. I did go ahead and wear my pearls. Julia Child, while she was doing her cooking show in America, she often wore pearls. I'm going to highlight a book today called My Life in France. And this book it's basically an autobiography. Julia Child did have help writing it. Her husband's great-grandnephew helped her write it, and his name was Prud'homme. It was very well done. It is considered a national bestseller. It's one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite autobiographies. It's really interesting to learn about Julia Child. She was, I would say, one of the first famous chefs, like a celebrity chef in our country. She's just unique. I loved how she broke a lot of expectations on women at the time and just how she became successful. She is so inspiring. Recently, I started doing a book club with some of my close friends, and we actually read this book together. That would be the second time I've read this book, and I enjoyed it just as much as the first time. And you know, a lot of times when you read a book, you forget the details, so rereading it is definitely valuable. We had a good time. We met together at a French restaurant to discuss it, and we all ordered a different savory crepe. So one was filled with sautéed mushrooms, one had beef bourguignon inside of it, and then mine had spinach. It was like a spinach souffle crepe. All of them were delicious, and it was a lot of fun discussing this book. Julia faced some opposition while she was pursuing the things that she loved to do. So for example, when she moved to France with her husband, she eventually landed on wanting to do cooking classes at the Cordon Bleu. But the person who helped run and register and organize the classes, she wasn't supportive of Julia. She said she'd never be good at cooking. I'm sure you've had experiences like this in your own life. I know I have. Pursuing something that you love or enjoy or you're passionate about, you're going to have some pushback. Julia Child is really a good example of pushing through, believing in your dreams, and just holding your head up high. Another thing that I really appreciate about Julia Child's life story is her relationship with her husband, Paul. Paul is very supportive of Julia and all her interests and her career in general. And Julia Child often says in her autobiography that she wouldn't have been where she was in her career without Paul's support. If you have a husband or a partner that supports you in what you do and what your interests are, if you have a family that does the same, that they're encouraging you to pursue the things you're passionate about, then you are very blessed. And I'm thankful that I have that as well in my life. So if you want to be inspired, read her book. It's really good. It's also just interesting to read about how she started as someone who really didn't know how to cook. She pursued what she was interested in. She became really good at it. She became a master at it. She wrote the first truly good recipe book for Americans on how to cook French food. I also have the first of 2 volumes for Mastering the Art of French Cooking. This is the book that she wrote with Simone Beck and Louisette Berthold. I'm going to cook 2 recipes from this book. I will be cooking Poulet sauté aux herbes de Provence. This is chicken sautéed with herbs and garlic, egg yolk, and butter sauce. I will also be preparing crepes made of potato, also known as potato pancakes. This potato recipe goes really well with that chicken recipe, so I'm going to go ahead and make both. One thing that Julia Child stresses with cooking, if you want your food to turn out delicious, making sure you have quality meat that you're using and not just the value meat. Getting the most meat for your money is going to be economical, but it's not going to produce the best results in terms of flavor. So I have some fresh chicken. I also have some garlic cloves here, some fresh herbs. So this calls for basil and thyme, both I have growing in my garden right now. The recipe does call for ground fennel. The beauty of cooking your own food at home is that you can adjust recipes as you like. I am not a fan of anything that has a licorice, any like flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the ground fennel, but I will be using thyme and basil. I'm going to be using freshly ground black pepper, and then also a little bit of salt. Okay, so the recipe does call for a whole stick of butter to be melted before we add the chicken in. Preferably, I would be using olive oil only, or even half butter, half olive oil. Today I'm going to try and follow her recipe as closely as I can. I know French cooking is known for its use of butter. So first we need to heat this butter until it is melted and foaming. Once it's all melted and starting to foam, I'm going to put all of the chicken pieces in. And her recipe says to cook for about 7 to 8 minutes. We're not browning the chicken, just getting it started. She said don't let it turn more than a deep yellow color. I'm going to go ahead and put the chicken pieces in. I did choose to use bone-in, skin-on chicken. I find that the flavor of the chicken, just how tender it becomes, is a lot more enjoyable when I cook it that way. And we can always, of course, remove the skin later. Okay, so while my chicken is doing its 7 to 8 minutes of cooking here, I am going to get my basil cut up. And I'm going to also take the thyme off the stems. If you haven't cooked with fresh herbs before, give it a try. It's really amazing. It adds so much depth and freshness to flavor compared to dried herbs. And I do use dried herbs a lot too, but when I can, I love to use fresh. I'll never forget the first time I had fresh herbs with a meal that I was helping cook in undergrad. We were doing a class where we had to basically run a mini restaurant. And I don't even remember what the recipe was, but I believe it had fresh basil in it, and it was just so amazing. And now with basil, every time I smell fresh basil, it reminds me of summer. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the leaves off of my fresh thyme. I love the sounds of cooking. When the broth or butter or oil you're using starts to make that boiling or simmering sound. And when your food hits the pan, oh, very satisfying. Go ahead and flip my chicken pieces over. And I do see that yellowing that Julia wrote about in her recipe. It's interesting to me how Julia Child stays relevant over all these years, and I don't think people in America are doing a whole lot of French cooking, but because she was so inspirational, she had such a unique experience. I think people are just really fascinated by her life and what she did with her career. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and remove the white meat to a plate, just like Julia said to do in her recipe. I'm going to go ahead and add some of the thyme and also some of the basil. And then she also said to go ahead and put 3 garlic cloves directly in the skillet and to not remove the outer casing just yet. I'm going to go ahead and cover this. This is going to cook for another 8 to 9 minutes. I did forget to put my salt and pepper on, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I don't like using a lot of salt, just a little bit. Let that cook. And then while this cooks, I'm going to season my white meat pieces just the same. And these will go back in the skillet in just a few minutes. Okay, so I went ahead and I cooked my dark meat chicken, and now it's time to go ahead and add our white meat chicken. And the garlic peels are coming right off. This is a nice hack. I didn't know about that. This is a chicken breast. And then it does say to baste, So we're going to pour the butter that's melted in the skillet on top of these chicken pieces. It's been about another 10 minutes. Let's see if it's cooked through. It smells amazing. So the chicken has reached a temperature of 165, and now we're going to start working on our sauce. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some dry white wine to the juices that are left in the pan. I'm adding this to the pot and I'm going to cook it until the wine has been reduced by about half. While that cooks, I'm going to start on the other part of the sauce. So here I have 2 egg yolks, and I'm going to be heating these very gently in a separate saucepan. I need a tablespoon of lemon juice. I'm going to go ahead and add in about half a teaspoon at a time into my egg yolks here and stir that up. So the goal here is that we create a thick, creamy sauce to pour over the chicken right before serving. Lastly, we do need to heat this super gently for just 4 to 5 seconds. I'm going to plate up my chicken to show you what it will look like. I'm going to go ahead and choose this lovely piece right here, and I'm going to pour some of the sauce on top. Lastly, it says to top with some more fresh herbs. I love the pop of green that this adds. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start the next recipe that goes along with this chicken, and that is the potato crepes. The first step to making the potato crepes is to mash cream cheese with flour. So I'm going to go ahead and mash this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add my salt now. Some pepper. And I'm going to give this a stir. I'm going to add in the Swiss cheese. Okay, I'm going to set this aside, and the next step is to peel the potatoes and grate them. So I have about 1.5 pounds of baking potatoes here. I'm going to use my trick. I'm going to peel them over a towel so it's a little bit easier to clean up the peels. Now that my potatoes are peeled, I'm going to go ahead and grate them. We do need to drain or strain out the extra moisture from the potatoes, so I'll do 1 to half potato at a time, grating it onto my towel, squeezing out the liquid, and then I can put it in my cream cheese mixture over here. Let's see how much liquid we get out of this. Yep, there's definitely a lot of moisture in this potato. Getting the liquid out will help it get a little bit more crispy when it cooks. Alright, on to our next potato. That was a ton of work. I got a good workout. I think there's more color in my face, some vigorous shredding of potatoes. I got a ton of water out of the potatoes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this, clean up my space. And I did pretty much get potato everywhere. Alright. Okay, now I can go ahead and stir the potatoes into the cream cheese mixture. Here's what it looks like. So let's get this mixed up. Now I'm going to add in up to 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. So I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons and see where that gets us. There are some optional ingredients you could add into these potato crepes, such as ham, sauteed mushroom, parsley, or fresh chives. I'm going to do chives. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of diced chives in here. I think this is going to be really delicious. Now I'm going to heat up some butter and a little bit of oil in my skillet here, and then we'll be ready to cook our potato crepes. So I'm going to put about half a tablespoon of oil in the pan and 1.5 tablespoons of butter. And the foaming is decreasing, so I'm going to go ahead and put my first pancake in here. So in the book it says they should be about 3/8 inch thick, and we're going to cook them about 3 minutes per side. It's been about 3 minutes, and I can tell that the crepes are getting pretty brown on the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and flip these. That looks really tasty. And I'm going to cook these for another 3 minutes before I remove them to the cooling rack. It's been 3 minutes. Let's see how these look. They look really good. They're nice and brown, they look crispy. I'm gonna go ahead and cool them on my cooling rack. And then I can go ahead and cook the rest of these potato crepes. Here's how my plate is looking. Looks so delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try now. I want to make sure I get some of the sauce on this bite. The sauce really does add a lot of flavor. I'm not familiar with French cooking, but this is definitely delicious with the sauce. I can taste the lemon in there. It's nice and rich. Alright, I want to try this potato crepe as well. I can taste the Swiss cheese, but also the chives. And I love that crispy potato flavor. When you've cooked a potato to a nice brown crisp, all of those flavors just go together so well. After today's cooking and trying some of Julia Child's recipes, my challenge for you is to check out one of these books. So either her autobiography or one of her cookbooks. There is a second volume to Mastering the Art of French Cooking, but she also has some other cookbooks. She partnered up with other celebrity chefs, and I've seen some of her other books. So my challenge for you is to pick one of these books. If you love reading, this is a great book. If you want to do more cooking, check out one of her recipe cookbooks. And let me know if you participate in this challenge. And I hope you enjoy your time with Julia Child.